Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Propst Arena in Huntsville, Alabama, and the show just ended. And Dynamite tonight, I thought it was a decent show, in my opinion. Of course, tonight's Dynamite is the go-home show for Revolution, which is this Sunday, which is shaped up to be a good show. And tonight marked Sting's final Dynamite because, of course, Sunday at Revolution, it's going to be Sting's final match where it's him and Darby Allin taking on the Young Bucks. So that I'm looking forward to. But tonight on Dynamite, we had the Blackpool Combat Club. We had Claudio Castagnoli, Jon Moxley, and Bryan Danielson versus FTR and Eddie Kingston. The International Championship was on the line where Orange Cassidy defended the title against Nick Wayne. We had Skye Blue. She ended up taking on Kris Statlander. And in the main event, Chris Jericho ended up taking on Atlantis Jr. Who, you might say, is Atlantis Jr.? He's from CMLL. Apparently, Jericho ended up facing Atlantis Sr. He was kind of like a mentor to Jericho. So he ended up taking on, Atlantis Jr. And of course, throughout the night, the Young Bucks, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, were searching for Sting. And they had, baseball bats in hand. Just going around looking for the Stinger. So overall, Dynamite tonight, decent show it was. But before I get into the review, just want to take the time and send my condolences out to Virgil's, family and friends. Virgil passed away today, and we all know, Virgil. He was one of, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase's, guys. So if you've seen that segment from back in the day with Ted DiBiase and Virgil. I only remember seeing that one segment where Ted DiBiase would pay, $1 million or something like that to anybody who could bounce a basketball. And there was a kid that got picked out of the crowd, and he's bouncing the basketball, and then Virgil ended up swiping the basketball away. So the kid wouldn't win any money. But that's, what I remember from Virgil. I know, that, he had a pretty good career. And, he passed away at, 61. So condolences to, his family and friends. But, he died. The cause is unknown at this point, so we might get a diagnosis of, what he passed away from. But news is going to come out, of that. But rest in peace, Virgil. Passed away today at 61 years old. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with Hangman Page. Hangman Page ended up making his way down to the ring, and he ended up coming down with crutches. He was struggling to get into the ring, so the crowd started chanting for Page. Page got on the mic, and he ended up saying that this appearance might not be a good looking start to this speech. Page ended up talking about what AEW has meant to him since he's been here. He ended up addressing, him winning the World Championship in 2021 as a big moment and the biggest accomplishment of his career. You know what I'm saying? That's why it hurts so much to have the opportunity in front of him again and to have this injury. You know what I'm saying? That when AEW decided the World Championship match would be a three-way, he decried the decision. You know what I'm saying? That he still feels the match should have been a singles match. He wanted to say that he's not going to apologize to either Swerve Strickland or Samoa Joe. You know what I'm saying? That he's going to say that this Sunday at Revolution. And he ended up saying that he is not going to be able to compete. So that drawed boos from the crowd. Swerve Strickland made his way out. He was accompanied by Prince Nana. Of course, Prince Nana doing his famous dance. You know, gotta do the Prince Nana dance. So Swerve ended up getting on the mic. He addressed the past 6 months and the battles that him and Hangman Page have had. He ended up saying that he didn't expect this to happen. Swerve ended up saying that he targeted Page because of his reputation, and to say that he doesn't respect Page would be a lie. But Swerve ended up saying you cannot change fate, and you cannot change destiny. Swerve ended up saying that his destiny is to go into Revolution and become the AEW World Champion. So Samoa Joe ended up coming out. Samoa Joe got on the mic. He ended up saying that Swerve and Page talk about destiny. And he ended up noting them that they seem to be trying to hug it out. So Joe ended up calling Page and Swerve out for focusing on each other and avoiding eye contact with him. So Joe ended up saying that Page and Swerve are hungry, accomplished wrestlers. But they need to realize the only reason they're hungry is that he is starving them. Because he is the AEW World Champion, and Joe ended up saying that he will whip one or both of them. Swerve then ended up saying that he reminds Joe that he is more than just a hungry competitor. He ended up saying that he will do whatever it takes to become champion. Swerve ended up saying that after he beats Joe, who knows what will happen. Maybe he'll go back to commentary wearing a poncho in the rain. Yeah, at WrestleMania 37, you remember that? Where it started raining and you saw him and Michael Cole with the ponchos on. And it's now become a big meme online, you know, with Joe wearing the poncho. So Swerve ended up declaring that this is his house. And Swerve was blindsided by Hangman Page. Page wasn't injured. So he only played it off. So Page ended up laying into Swerve. He ended up yelling at him. And he ended up yelling at Joe, saying that he will be the AEW World Champion after Revolution. So pretty much that was basically that. But overall, very good opening to Dynamite. You know, I like the whole thing with Page, you know, here faking, you know, his injury and just, you know, he did that just to get his hands on Swerve. But really looking forward to the match on Sunday, at Revolution. You know, the three-way, you know, Samoa Joe, Swerve, and Page for the AEW World Championship. Should be a good match. And then we saw the Young Bucks. We saw Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. They arrived at the arena. They walked in. Renee Paquette was there to interview them. She ended up asking the Bucks about their match at Revolution and also Sting's final appearance on Dynamite tonight. She then went on to ask the Bucks about the meeting that they had with Ric Flair. And the Bucks ended up saying that the meeting with Flair went amazing. And then Matthew Jackson asked if Renee had seen Sting around, because him and Nicholas planned to conduct an exit interview. And of course, we had Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. They end up having baseball bats in hand, and the Bucks end up inviting the camera tech to follow them as they were going to look for Sting. So pretty much that was basically that. That was the main focus of the show tonight. Sting's final appearance on Dynamite. The Bucks going around the whole night looking for Sting, trying to get their hands on Sting before their match at Revolution. Sting's final match at Revolution, where it's going to be Sting and Darby Allin, taking on the Bucks. And then we had the first match of the night. The Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli versus FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Eddie Kingston. And this was a very good match here, but the reason why they did this match is because all these men are involved in matches at Revolution. You have Moxley and Claudio taking on FTR, and you have Bryan Danielson facing Eddie Kingston this Sunday at Revolution. So this was pretty much basically a preview of what we're going to see with these guys Sunday at Revolution. For Moxley and Claudio and FTR and Bryan and Kingston. So the Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley, Claudio, and Bryan end up making their way through the crowd, before the match even got underway. We had the top guys, FTR. They end up coming out, Harwood, Wheeler. And then Eddie Kingston came out, got a big pop from the fans, chanting his name, of course. But of course, Eddie Kingston is going to be defending the Continental Crown Championship against Bryan at Revolution Sunday. So the match got underway. It looked like we were going to start with Eddie Kingston and Bryan. The crowd was cheering for this. They were cheering for Kingston. And Bryan's like, no. Bryan then tagged in Claudio. So Claudio and Kingston end up going at it. Claudio ended up sending Kingston into the corner. So Kingston ended up delivering a boot to Claudio. And we had Claudio end up tagging in Bryan. Kingston tagged in Dax. So Bryan and Dax end up going at it. Both guys end up locking up. Dax ended up taking Bryan down. Bryan got back up. He ended up sending Dax into the ropes. But Dax ended up dropping Bryan with a shoulder tackle. Bryan then ended up fighting back quickly to Dax. Bryan then ended up tagging in Moxley. And Dax ended up tagging in Wheeler. So Mox and Wheeler were slugging it out with each other. Wheeler was then sent to the corner by Moxley. But Wheeler ended up turning things around. He started laying into Moxley. Moxley ended up delivering some chops to Wheeler. And things end up spilling to the outside because all six men were just devolving in the ring. They were going at it with each other. And the chaos spilled to the outside. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Moxley ended up tagging back in. And he was looking to focus on Wheeler's leg. And Dax ended up rushing in to break the hold. Wheeler ended up getting blocked from making a tag. He ended up fighting off Moxley with a Hurricanrana. And then Wheeler ended up tagging in Dax. Dax fought off Claudio. He ended up catching Moxley with a cradle. And we had Moxley end up kicking out. Dax ended up rolling Moxley up for a second try. But Moxley ended up kicking out. So we had Dax ended up going for a Tiger Suplex pin to Moxley, but that got broken up by Bryan. Kingston tried to get involved, and he got cut off by the ref, which gave the Blackpool Combat Club an opening control of the match to lay into Dax Harwood. Kingston ended up trying to put a stop to the beatdown by the Blackpool Combat Club on Harwood, but we had Kingston end up getting targeted by Bryan. So we had Dax and Claudio end up squaring off. Claudio ended up picking up a near fall, and then Dynamite went to commercial again. So when Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had the Blackpool Combat Club. They ended up taking out Cash Wheeler. Bryan ended up doing a leap attack to Harwood, and Mox ended up tagging in. So Bryan and Mox ended up continuing wearing Dax Harwood down with the armbar. Dax ended up finding out of a pile driver by Moxley. He fended off Bryan to make the tag to Eddie. So Bryan ended up tagging in. And of course, we had Bryan and Kingston in there. A little preview of what we're going to see at Revolution on Sunday. So Bryan and Kingston were exchanging chops to each other. Bryan ended up finding out from the corner. Kingston ended up catching Bryan from the ropes for an exploder suplex. Mox ended up coming in. He started to deliver some strikes to Kingston. Claudio then ended up running in. He ended up delivering the giant swing to Kingston. And then Bryan ended up delivering a drop kick to Kingston. Bryan ended up going for a cover, and Dax Harwood broke up the pin. So Harwood and Wheeler ended up catching Bryan with a bulldog double team. Kingston ended up going for the cover, and Mox and Claudio both ended up breaking up the pin. So we had all 6 men in the ring again, and they were throwing some strikes. Blackpool Combat Club ended up taking control, and they ended up beating down on, of course, FTR. So Bryan was yelling at Kingston to tap. He ended up cinching in a rear naked choke on Kingston. Kingston, of course, refused to tap. He got to his feet, and we had FTR and Kingston end up sending the Blackpool Combat Club into the turnbuckles. We had chops from Kingston and FTR on the Blackpool Combat Club, which was really good. So at the end of the match, Bryan ended up grabbing Eddie Kingston's hands, and he started stomping away at Kingston's head. He locked in a triangle choke on Kingston. Kingston was then out, and the ref called for the bell. So there you go. The Blackpool Combat Club ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match here between the Blackpool Combat Club and FTR and Kingston. Good back and forth action here. Wrestling was good. Of course, like I said, this was a preview of what we're going to see between all these guys at Revolution on Sunday. Moxley and Claudio taking on, FTR, and Bryan taking on Eddie Kingston. In my opinion, it was just a little preview match of what we're going to see. And then we saw a video package of Chris Jericho. Jericho was shown as the Lionheart as he was facing Atlantis in CMLL and teaming up with Atlantis. So we saw that. It was a nice, video package, showcasing clips of Jericho facing Atlantis. And then we went backstage and we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was talking to Jericho about his match with Atlantis Jr. later on in the night. So Jericho ended up telling Renee about his history with CMLL and Atlantis. He ended up saying that he was excited for this match when the AEW CMLL partnership was announced, and promised him to show Atlantis Jr. So he ended up saying things he hasn't seen before, promising victory for El Corazon de Leon for Atlantis Jr. So pretty much that was that. I like that we got, mention of, when Jericho was in CMLL. That was good, to know explanation there. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring, and he welcomed Will Ospreay to AEW. Of course, Will Ospreay is all elite. Will Ospreay is very good in the ring. I like Ospreay. So he ended up coming out, making his first appearance as an official member of the roster. Of course, Ospreay is going to be taking on Konosuke Takeshita this Sunday at Revolution, which that should be a very good match there. Really am looking forward to the match. So Ospreay got into the ring. He waved hello to the Huntsville crowd. He ended up thanking the crowd for being so invited. He ended up addressing what went down between his last match in New Japan, which I did not watch, but I've heard of it. Heard it was, a good match that he had. And he also addressed, tonight, showing his appreciation as he is prepared to be all elite. So Ospreay ended up reminding the fans that he has been around here before. He ended up beating the likes of Orange Cassidy. He ended up beating Kenny Omega in Canada. And he also ended up beating Chris Jericho in Wembley last year at All In, which was a great match. So Ospreay ended up saying that he's been rolling around with the Don Callis family, and everything has been good. So the Don Callis family ended up making their way out. We saw Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita and Will Hobbs. So they got into the ring. Don Callis ended up saying that there's nothing he likes more than the Don Callis family reunion. Callis ended up addressing what him and Ospreay accomplished together. He had promised him to top that with the match of the decade, bringing the best wrestlers of the world together in him and Konosuke Takeshita. So Don Callis ended up saying that this is like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen going hard at each other during practice and then getting together to win championships. Callis ended up saying that it doesn't matter who wins at Revolution, because ultimately the winner will be the Don Callis family. So Callis ended up telling both Ospreay and Takeshita to shake hands, which they obliged. So Don Callis ended up trying to shake things off, and it was just, a bit of banter ahead of the match. So pretty much basically Ospreay and Takeshita were, saying words to each other, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, really liked this segment here. Will Ospreay now officially all elite, and gonna look forward to seeing him on AEW television, possibly every week, or twice a week, 3 times a week, who knows. But really, I'm glad that Ospreay is a part of the AEW roster. The guy is just absolutely good in the ring. So very entertaining. And then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was interviewing Eddie Kingston, and Eddie Kingston was talking to Renee about his match at Revolution. And he was then interrupted by the Young Bucks, by Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, which of course they were still looking for Sting. So the Bucks end up running Eddie Kingston down for his look, and the Bucks end up moving on to look for Sting, and pretty much that was basically that. Just the Bucks making fun of how Eddie Kingston looks. Pretty much that was that. But Eddie Kingston versus Bryan at Revolution for the Continental Crown should be, another good match to look forward to. It's going to be hopefully a banger of a match between the both of them. And then we had Orange Cassidy versus Nick Wayne. This was for the International Championship. And this was a decent match here. Of course, Nick Wayne was accompanied by Christian Cage and Killswitch and his mother, Shayna. And the match ended up going the way. It was back and forth between Cassidy and Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne ended up sending Orange Cassidy to the outside. He pinned a moonsault that dropped Cassidy. So Christian ended up commending Nick Wayne for delivering that moonsault and taking out Cassidy. So Nick Wayne ended up bringing Cassidy back into the ring. Cassidy then rolled out of the ring again. And then Nick Wayne ended up pinning a dive to Cassidy. So Cassidy ended up fighting off Nick Wayne. Christian Cage then intervened. And it got him and also the Patriarch, Killswitch and Shayna, ejected from ringside. So it was now just one-on-one between Orange Cassidy and Nick Wayne at this point. So Dynamite went to commercial. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Nick Wayne ended up getting sent into the turnbuckle by Cassidy, and then he got sent into the turnbuckle again. So Cassidy ended up pinning a diving crossbody, and then he delivered a DDT to Nick Wayne. Cassidy ended up going for the cover, and Nick Wayne ended up kicking out. Cassidy ended up heading to the corner. He was ready to deliver the orange punch to Nick Wayne, but Nick Wayne countered the orange punch with a fisherman suplex, and he went for the cover, to which Cassidy ended up kicking out. So Nick Wayne started mocking Orange Cassidy with Orange Cassidy's, little kicks. And then Nick Wayne ended up taking a thrust kick to the face by Cassidy. Cassidy then started laying in some stomps to Nick Wayne. And Nick Wayne ended up fighting away an orange punch, and he delivered a German suplex, but we had Cassidy end up catching Nick Wayne with a beach break, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Nick Wayne ended up kicking out. The Undisputed Kingdom ended up showing up through the crowd. You had Matt Taven, Mike Bennett. They distracted Orange Cassidy, and he ended up getting taken down with a dragon suplex from Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne ended up going for the cover. Cassidy ended up kicking out. So Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta came out. They ended up taking out Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Nick Wayne ended up taking off the turnbuckle cover because the ref was distracted by what was going on between Taylor, Beretta, and Matt Taven, Mike Bennett on the other side. And then Daniel Garcia ended up coming out. So Daniel Garcia ended up distracting Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne was distracted by, Daniel Garcia, led to Orange Cassidy delivering the orange punch to Nick Wayne. Cassidy ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Orange Cassidy ended up winning the match, retaining the International Championship. Post-match, Roderick Strong ran in, beat it down on Cassidy, and pretty much that was that. So leading up to Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong, their match at Revolution for the International Championship. But overall, decent match between Orange Cassidy and Nick Wayne here. And then we saw Renee Paquette Renee Paquette was talking to the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, and Jay White ended up admitting he's now all in on the group. So they all started joking about Max Caster's rap mistake that he made, and there's going to be a match with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang this Saturday on Collision. So that was basically that. So guns up. And then we had Kris Statlander versus Skye Blue. Kris Statlander, of course, was accompanied by Will Nightingale and Stokely Hathaway. Skye Blue was accompanied by the TBS champion, Julia Hart. And this was just a very meh match here. Didn't care for it. Skye Blue ended up attacking Kris Statlander, but Kris Statlander ended up fending Skye Blue off. She ended up sending Skye Blue into the corner with some strikes. Skye Blue ended up taking Statlander down, but Statlander ended up getting back to her feet. And we had Kris Statlander end up going for the cover on Skye Blue, but Skye Blue ended up kicking out. So we had Skye Blue and Kris Statlander. They ended up heading to the ropes. Skye Blue ended up getting caught by Statlander, and she ended up dropping Skye Blue down to the canvas. So we had Skye Blue end up sending Kris Statlander to the outside. Statlander quickly started fighting back. She ended up catching Skye Blue, and she ended up poisoning Skye Blue up, and she ended up sending Skye Blue into the front row. Ended up taking out plants there that were pretty much sitting in the front row. You could tell that those weren't fans, that they were just plants that they planted there. So then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Statlander was in control of the match. She ended up fighting back to Skye Blue. She ended up sending Skye Blue into the corner. She ended up hitting a running knee to Skye Blue, which was followed up by a power slam. Statlander ended up going for the cover, and Skye Blue ended up kicking out. Skye Blue then started fighting back at Statlander. She ended up hitting a neck breaker. She ended up going for the cover on Statlander, and Statlander ended up kicking out. So Statlander started fighting back. She ended up delivering a German suplex to Skye Blue onto the apron. So Julia Hart checked on Skye Blue. She ended up staring Kris Statlander down. Will Nightingale ended up intervening, and Skye Blue caught Statlander off guard. So went back into the ring. Skye Blue ended up hitting a thrust kick to Statlander. She ended up going for the cover, and Statlander ended up kicking out. So Skye Blue ended up heading to the corner. She was taken down by Statlander. She ended up going for the cover, and we had Skye Blue end up kicking out. So Stokely Hathaway, he ended up having a chain in hand. He ended up offering Statlander the chain to take out Skye Blue, to which Statlander refused that. She refused to take the chain because, of course, if she uses the chain, she would get disqualified. So while the ref was dealing with Stokely Hathaway, Julia Hart came into the ring. Julia Hart nailed Statlander in the head with the TBS championship, which that gave Skye Blue the advantage, and she ended up hitting Code Blue on Kris Statlander. She ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Skye Blue ended up winning the match with the assistance of Julia Hart. So pretty much that was basically that. But overall, just a very meh match it was. So then we saw the Bucks. The Bucks were continuing their hunt looking for the Stinger. And they arrived at Sting's locker room. So they ended up going into the locker room, and Sting wasn't in there. the Bucks end up finding a bunch of baseball bats hanging from the ceiling. And this confused the Bucks. And it made them get pissed off. Because they thought that Sting would be in there. But nope. Like I said, they walked in, saw baseball bats hanging from the ceiling. So that was that. Main event. Chris Jericho as the Lionheart. He had taken on Atlantis Jr. Haven't seen, Atlantis Jr. wrestle before. This is the first time I've seen, Atlantis Jr., from CMLL. And this was a okay match here. So, before the match got underway, we had Atlantis Jr. He ended up offering a handshake to Jericho, but Jericho refused that. He started laying in some strikes to Atlantis Jr. Atlantis Jr. started fighting back, and we had Atlantis Jr. end up fighting Jericho off before hitting a diving crossbody. He ended up sending Jericho into the opposite corner for a monkey flip. So Atlantis followed up with a second monkey flip, and then Atlantis Jr. was going for a third monkey flip, but he got stopped by Jericho because Jericho locked in the walls. And since Atlantis Jr. was right at the ropes, he ended up grabbing the ropes to force, the break of the walls locked in on him from Jericho. So Jericho ended up going after Atlantis Jr.'s mask, and he was then, warded off by Atlantis Jr. So Atlantis Sr., who accompanied Atlantis Jr. out there, Atlantis ended up going after Jericho with a towel, and that gave Atlantis Jr. a chance to fight back at Jericho. Atlantis Jr. ended up sending Jericho out of the ring. He ended up hitting a catapult, which sent Jericho into the ring post. Atlantis Jr. ended up setting up the ring steps to deliver a powerbomb to Jericho, but he was sent flying into the ring steps with a Jericho Hurricanrana. So pretty much Dynamite went to commercial. Then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Atlantis Jr. ended up fighting back to Jericho, and Atlantis was fended off by Jericho, only for Jericho to be sent flying from Atlantis Jr. Atlantis Jr. ended up going for the cover, and Jericho kicked out. So Atlantis rolled through. He had pinned a wheelbarrow suplex to Jericho, to which Jericho kicked out. So Jericho ended up landing a bulldog on Atlantis Jr. Of course, this was shades of Jericho's match against, Atlantis Jr.'s father. So Jericho ended up going for the cover, to which Atlantis Jr. ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, we had Jericho end up locking in the walls of Jericho on Atlantis Jr. So Atlantis Sr. threw in the towel to end the match. So there you go. Because of Atlantis Sr. throwing in the towel, Jericho won the match. Post-match, we had a show of respect between Jericho and both of the Atlantis guys, Atlantis Sr., Atlantis Jr. So that was basically that. But overall, it was a decent match between Jericho and Atlantis Jr. Good showcasing from, both these guys. And Atlantis Jr., not bad in the ring. He was actually very good. Then we saw the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks headed down to the ring with their baseball bats in hand. So they ended up jawing at a few fans that were wearing Sting masks. One of the Bucks ended up just flipping off one of the fans' Sting masks, which they thought it possibly was Sting. And then one of them was wearing a Sting mask, and it was revealed to be Darby Allin. So the Bucks end up being down on Darby. They end up bringing Darby into the ring. They end up hitting Darby with the EVP trigger. And the Bucks were looking to continue the beatdown on Darby Allin by calling out Ric Flair. So Ric Flair ended up coming out. We had "Woo!" ringing out through the crowd. So Flair came into the ring. He was looking to lay into Darby Allin with the baseball bat, but Ric Flair ended up going after the Young Bucks instead. And this was, Ric Flair telling the Bucks of why he's called the dirtiest player in the game. We all thought that, Ric Flair was going to, accompany the Bucks, and that Flair was going to be, a heel going into this. But he turned things around and beat it down on the Bucks, to which the Bucks got their revenge on Flair by low-blowing Ric Flair. So they beat Flair down, and then we had Sting's music ended up hitting. So the Bucks were on the ramp. They were waiting for Sting to come out, but Sting didn't come out from the back. Sting, came down from the rafters just like he did in WCW on that WCW Nitro, where he confronted Macho Man Randy Savage. He came down from the rafters from the first time in that moment. So, Sting came down from the rafters. He appeared at ringside. He stared down at the Bucks. So Sting started fending off the Bucks, started beating the Bucks down with the baseball bats. So Sting got the two, baseball bats. He hit, one of the bats to the Bucks, with both of the bats. So Darby then got involved. Nicholas Jackson ended up getting sent into the ring. Sting ended up hitting Nicholas with a Scorpion Death Drop. And we had Darby Allin, before that, he ended up hitting the Coffin Drop to both of the Bucks. So, and pretty much, that was, basically that. Sting, Darby Allin, Ric Flair ended up standing tall. And that was how Dynamite went off the air. But overall, really enjoyed this little segment here to end Dynamite. Hype going into, Sting's final match at Revolution. But overall, Dynamite, decent show tonight. But anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all on Friday for SmackDown. So see you all then.